Our next topic, should landlords be allowed to charge new tenants 6 months rent up front? 0207 862 2222. MPs have voted to ban landlords from asking for more than 1 month's rent in advance. The Housing Secretary, Angela Rayner, said it would end outrageous upfront costs for new tenants. 1 in 8 landlords have asked for between 4 and 6 months of rent in advance when they take the new tenant in. And Labour said that meant renters sometimes had to pay $8,500 just to get into the door. Critics have warned that as a result of the change, though, tenants may not be able to prove that they can cover the rent long term, and they may not get the house at all. So, Cristo, you are a landlord. How many properties do you have?
I have, that I rent out?
Yeah, well, roughly.
3.
3. And do you think it's unfair to let a landlord say to a new tenant, I want 6 months in advance?
It's nothing to do with the government whatsoever. The arrangement that I have, as long as I am fulfilling my legal responsibilities, the financial arrangement between myself and a tenant. And what is so frustrating about this is that the very people the government claims that it wants to help with this, i.e. probably people who have less money to spend on rent, who are more vulnerable, are going to be the people that suffer. Because when you are renting out a property, when you are running a business, it's about risk, and it's about the risk of whether that tenant can pay or not. Now, I'll give you an example. I was renting out a property a few months ago, and I love my tenants to feel like it's home, and I meet my tenants face to face. I don't use an agent, and I always go round myself and make sure that the curtains are good. I really make sure the house is lovely for them when I rent it out. And I was then doing viewings myself, and a couple came in. He was self-employed as a gardener. She was in full-time education but worked as a barista in a coffee shop. So on paper, they were not not contract employed, not financially brilliant tenants. But they said to me, listen, actually, we'd love to rent your flat. I adored them. And they said, we can give you 3 months rent up front. And what that did was that showed me that they could afford it. It meant as well that I didn't need to charge them as much every single month because they were giving me some up front. And it meant that a tenant that would perhaps on paper be a bit more risky, I was prepared to take a chance on. Now, if I could only take 1 month's rent up front, I would be less likely to take a risk on a tenant like that, and I would say, fine, I need to see that you are employed in a high-paid contract job, therefore meaning those very people that Labour claim they want to help are going to be the ones that are actually going to suffer.
Paulette, what do you say to that?
Can I say that Christos is probably a good landlord. In the area I am an MP in, the landlords sometimes, not all of them, sometimes they are quite ruthless. And what they've been doing is taking lots of money. So those who can afford to pay the money up front, they have been taking it off them. But many people can't afford to pay it. And you've got the young person who's just come out of university, probably just got their first job. They just want enough so they can at least buy their furniture. You've then got other people that want to rent a flat. Sometimes you've got men or women that have moved from a couple's relationship and they want to rent, but they can't afford the £8,000 to £10,000.
It may be wrong or right. It doesn't really matter. It's nothing to do with the government. It's his flat.
No, because we've got my caseload in Birmingham, Erdington. The largest thing that comes in is around housing. People have nowhere to live. And there are properties there, but they just can't afford to rent them because many landlords just will not consider them for one reason or another.
Okay.
So the no-fault eviction, the fact that they reduce the rental, the amount they've got to pay as rent, it means that landlords then I think they don't discriminate.
Cristo,
what I'm hoping is
all of these policies, what they're doing is they're making landlords leave the market. 1 in 4 properties for sale at the moment in London are buy-to-let properties that landlords are disposing of. And when you reduce the supply of something, the cost of it goes up. So if the government, I know that you're not in government, you are an MP or for Labour, but what really worries me, and I say this as someone who wants tenants to have nice places to live, is that you're going to end up in a situation where properties, there are going to be fewer properties, so those tenants are going to end up paying more because there are fewer properties around, and actually those people that the Labour claim they want to help are going to end up suffering.
Right, let's talk to Anthony, who's in Blackpool. Are you a tenant or a landlord, Anthony?
I'm a landlord.
Right, what do you make of this, that you won't be able to take more than a month up front?
I think it's absolutely disgusting that the government is interfering so much with landlords. I buy properties and I have spent 35 years doing them up to a very, very high standard, taking them from slums to show homes. I provide top quality accommodation, and the government has taken all the tax relief off the mortgage so that the landlords can't even earn a living. So they're selling up in the thousands and thousands, creating a housing shortage. Surely, if a landlord has spent 25% deposit down on a property, then they've got the responsibility of all the mortgage, all the repairs. Then Blackpool is also putting selective licensing on, which good landlords get absolutely nothing for.
And the increased stamp duty, Anthony, and the increased stamp duty you've paid to buy that property.
Also, now there's capital gains have increased. There's no way that a landlord can earn a living. And, if a landlord can't earn a living...
Anthony, isn't their aim to stop you earning a living? Because what they want you to do is to sell your properties so that then people can buy them and own them as private residents. And understandably, they want more people to own houses.
But the people in general that rent, not all obviously, can never afford to save a deposit to buy their own house. They are never usually in a position. Lots of people on benefits, etc., with disabilities that can't work, need rental properties to live in. And if the government drives all the landlords out, they have to put people up in emergency temporary accommodation that costs far
Understood.
more.
Let's get Paulette's response. Hang on, Anthony. Paulette.
Let me do two things. The area that I'm an MP in, we have selective licensing in Birmingham. It's the best thing we've ever bought in because we have a lot of rogue landlords. Yourself and Christos, excellent landlords, but that has not been my story.
And selective licensing is where you zone certain areas and you say you are coming under different rules. Okay.
Well, basically, you pay a fee so that the council can ensure that you're keeping up to the standards.
Okay, yeah.
Because in areas like mine, we had properties that were very mouldy, landlords charging extorted, and HMOs.
This is not the issue here. The issue is Anthony can't earn a living from being a landlord.
The point is, we have to make it fair for everybody. And what was happening, lots of people were being evicted from their properties for no reason. Lots of people were being charged, like in London, over £2,000 a month for rent. And sometimes the rents were just unfair.
Okay.
And people couldn't afford to rent them anyway.
Thank you, Anthony. We've got another landlord. John is in Bedfordshire. Do you charge 6 months up front, John?
To some tenants. What I do is I offer flexible payment plans. We have a set monthly fee, but if someone wants to pay 3 months in advance, we offer them discount, or 6 months in advance offer discounts.
Yeah.
So what this new rule is doing is actually making tenants lose the option of payment allowance, and it's actually putting up their rent.
I wonder what will happen, because I'm sure that it's very hard to stop landlords doing certain other things in terms of taking deposits and stuff. And I don't, it may be that actually that you increase the deposit because
you're not allowed. You're only allowed to take 5 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks.
Deposit. A maximum of I think it's 5 weeks is the maximum now that you can take. So all of this is just going to make landlords either sell, or it's going to make them say, well, you know what, I'm only going to go for those really high earning, low risk tenants, and that's going to be the very people that Labour claim that they want to help with this, and that's what I just can't get my head around it. One just very other quick point, that you're also seeing now corporations like BlackRock and others building to rent, right? So they're building massive complexes to rent themselves. Good luck with a huge corporation if you're late with your rent for a few days, rather than ringing me or one of you callers, John, and saying, I can't pay for a couple of days. It's not going to help people. That's
Thanks for your calls. Later, it's the papers and everything else.